Number 5. Disenfranchisement and fraud. One of the many political tools used to sway a vote, disenfranchisement is one of the worst because it's legal. It typically happens in the form of a law that restricts a particular group from casting a vote by requiring them to produce special documentation or identification that they simply don't have. Often, these laws masquerade as fraud protection, and while the rules vary from state to state and sometimes even a particular district, it's all too common for politics to undermine a fair and equitable count. Then there's outright voter fraud, whether it's an individual who votes more than once, or someone who votes in the place of a deceased party, the importation of illegal aliens, or simply a rigged count. America has seen every kind of fraud known to man. In every election cycle, one or both sides accuses the other of cheating. The resulting slander war can rarely be resolved with fact. And the reality is that it isn't terribly difficult to influence an election, and get away with it. Trust me, those who can, generally do. Number 4. Human error. Regardless of what you're voting for, any election system is only as accurate as the moderators who collect the ballots and publish the count. Even if we take fraud out of the equation, it's statistically impossible to collect millions of ballots from across the country and get the count right every single time. Even if the count is accurate, candidates often demand recounts to buy time while they enact damage control, and every count that follows is more and more likely to be inaccurate. Your vote can also be invalidated for a number of logical but untimely subjective reasons based on the judgment of a counting officer. Balancing a checkbook by yourself is hard enough. Add on a few family members and it gets complicated. Imagine tabulating hundreds or even thousands of ballots together with numerous counting officers, and it's no surprise that any two counts are like snowflakes. Even if politicians in districts don't cheat, and even if your counting officer doesn't invalidate your ballot, human error marginalizes your single voice, and there's no way to know for sure if it was even heard. Number 3. Campaign funding. Even when a candidate follows all the rules and wins every debate with skill and intellect, they still can't win a nomination without a steady stream of funding. Candidates must raise millions to even compete for a party nomination. And nowadays, campaign war chests dip into the billion range. It is the biggest barrier to entry for anyone who wants to run for president. And your choices are therefore limited to a hand-picked number of politicians, all of whom are beholden to their financiers. Which one you ultimately vote for matters very little in terms of policy reform, and the vast majority of candidates are only interested in maintaining the economic status quo. Why does funding matter so much? Well, voters are more likely to support a candidate that they think will actually win. The more often a voter sees an advertisement or is otherwise reminded of a candidate, the more faith that they will have in that candidate to succeed because of how well funded they are. It's pretty circular logic, and it shouldn't be this way, but it is. Since most voters are uninformed either by choice or simply because everyone is already too busy to watch debates and research candidates, many choose to go with whoever is the most visible. Though not singularly decisive, every winner of a general election has had the backing of a strong, well-funded advertising campaign. It's a system which ultimately dilutes the value of your vote, especially if you vote for a poorly funded third party. Advertising may buy presence, but only you choose who to vote for. Well, sort of. Number 2. Swing states. Simply put, your place of residency matters far more than who you vote for. States with low populations have very few electoral votes. And since the electoral membership is comprised of appointed party members, rather than elected delegates, most states vote for their own party year in and year out, regardless of the popular vote. Sure, it would be unwise for them to support a candidate who has lost a popular vote in a landslide, but there is no law to compel them either way. The few states that don't conform to a single party are known as swing states, and this is where candidates spend the majority of their time and campaign dollars. But even if you live in one of these states, your vote still doesn't elect a president. Only the Electoral College can do that. Number 1. The Electoral College. And finally, in case you didn't know, the Electoral College is a body of electors established by the Founding Fathers to end the dispute between Congress and the voting public over who was best equipped and legally able to elect a president. The people's popular vote is used to elect a governor for a given state. The governor then appoints politically informed party members to the Electoral College, often as a reward for long-standing faithful service. And it is they who vote in a presidential candidate in representation of the people from their state. The number of votes each state gets depends on their population and the total number of congressmen and senators they have in each district. The sum total of possible electoral votes is 538. Half of which is 269. For a candidate to win a presidential election, they must receive at least 270 votes, or a 51% majority. In the event of a tie, the House of Representatives elects the president, and the Senate elects the vice president. Generally speaking, whichever candidate wins the popular vote in a given state receives all the electoral votes of that state, nullifying all the votes for everyone else. There is also no law requiring the appointed electors to vote for the winner of the popular vote. However, if they do vote against the people's choice, they are branded as faithless electors and fined a small fee. But their vote cannot be invalidated or changed in any way. Throughout American history, this has happened 156 times. And on 5 occasions, the Electoral College has awarded the presidency to the loser of the popular vote, including John Quincy Adams, Rutherford B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama.